guys, welcome back to this episode of the Corporate Dropouts. This week we are taking a minute to reflect on what has been a truly roller coaster of a year, I think. Both Ellie and I have done a shitload of stuff. We've had ups, we've had downs, we've had highs, we've had lows. And I think just as business owners, it's really like important, as we keep going on about, just to kind of take a minute and reflect. And actually, Ellie and I both sat down and reflected on the year as we were planning our goals out for 2023. And we've come up with maybe like 4 reflections each, both from a personal perspective and a business perspective, of what we think has really like been a big lesson learned for us in 2022. And we wanted to share those with you, as well as encouraging you to kind of also reflect on the year as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just thinking back to the start of 2022, just doesn't that seem like ages ago? I mean, it was ages ago, but yeah, I feel like sometimes we do forget how much we do in a year. And yeah, the whole point of this podcast and the whole point of reflections is giving yourself that like validation and reward and being proud of yourself for how much you have achieved this year. So that's like the point of this podcast episode. And we wanted to kind of like talk to you guys about what we feel proud of ourselves for, and almost how those reflections that we're going to talk about through this episode are going to drive our goals for next year as well, so that we can continually improve and become better people and level up, as we always say. So yeah, I'm really excited for this episode. And if you haven't listened to our episode about goals, which we released will be a couple of weeks ago now, but go check that one out as well, because these two kind of link really nicely in with each other. And that is just a really good episode, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed with, all the goals you set for yourself all the time. Like, that is a really good episode to listen to. And also, guys, remember that we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and now YouTube. So yeah, you can watch us in action as well as listen to us.
I think, as always with this podcast, we really like to share the innermost details of our journey and like what makes us kind of, what's helped us step up in our entrepreneurial game, what's helped our businesses be more successful, what's made us feel happier. And that's kind of the point of this episode, is we're getting quite real with like what we've learned this year and what we've noticed has really propelled us forward, and what we're going to be taking into next year, as Ellie said, and using those as a way to goal set. So we've split this out into personal and business. So I think we'll start with our personal reflections. So Ellie, do you want to share your first one with us?
Yes. So what I kind of realized in 2022, and it was quite at the beginning of 2022. So just to give you a little bit of a summary, I'm sure if you've listened to our podcast for a while now, you'll know, like, Christina and I both, we both got a therapist this year, basically. And that was just to really improve like the way that we process emotions, like learning more about ourselves, kind of getting to the crux of all those little like niggly feelings that we got quite a lot of the time. And yeah, I think therapy is just about understanding yourself more and becoming more conscious to who you are as a person and where you need to improve. So when I started my therapy journey, which was actually at the beginning of 2022, again, that seems so crazy that I've like seen I don't know, that sounds really weird, like I've seen a therapist, my therapist says, but yeah, I've seen a therapist for almost a year now. But the one thing that I realized at the start, when I first started seeing her, was that I'm a massive people pleaser. And in fact, that I was not pleasing myself in doing this. I was trying to please everyone else. No one really cares about if you're pleasing them or not. They'll just take it and run away with it, and you won't get the same in return, basically. And it's only detrimental to yourself. So that's something that I learned this year. So my reflection, my first personal reflection for 2022 was that, I got a handle on my people pleasing. I started putting myself and my needs first. I started speaking up. I was scared to speak up for my needs. And this was in relationships, family dynamics, love life, work life, everything. Like, it goes into every part of your life. And that's why sometimes we do get anxieties and depressions and stuff, because we're not living for ourselves. We're living for what other people want from us. And just saying no, putting your boundaries in place, communicating your needs, communicating your feelings. These are all like super important for your own well-being. And that's something that I've learned this year. And it's crazy to think that I've gone 27 years of my life not realizing that this is actually a route to happiness, because I mean, it all stems from childhood, doesn't it? But that, I think people pleasing is something we're taught young. It's like, how can we make everyone happy? How can we please our mummy and daddy so that we receive love? Like all this stuff. So that's been a really big lesson for me, but it's something that I'm so grateful that I've learned. And it is so uncomfortable setting your boundaries, especially after like so long of just, you know, being a people pleaser. So I'm really proud of myself for embarking on this journey. And it's definitely not completed. Like it's a lifelong journey, but that's my first reflection for 2022.
I think that's really good. And that's a big, like, that's a really good way of generating more self-confidence as well, I think, because I think being a people pleaser effectively comes from not having enough confidence in your own wants and needs, and thinking that actually, you know, you'll get that satisfaction and you'll generate the kind of love you're seeking by pleasing others. So it's a really good, and I think especially as an entrepreneur, like being able to be happy on your own and like with your own decisions is such an important skill to have. And that, you know, there are situations that are going to arise where people are not going to agree with you, but you have to be so firm and so strong and trust your intuition and trust your own instincts, that, you know, that need and that ability to set your boundaries and not be a people pleaser is so important, just in general life, but especially as an entrepreneur. That's such a good skill to have.
That you've hit the nail on the head there. That is so true. It, like, people pleasing is basically not trusting your own initiative and your own instincts. Absolutely. So that's such a hard, like what I keep saying, it's so hard to learn, basically, to trust yourself and realize that I like, and I'm sure there's so many people that have people pleasing tendencies. Definitely, I think a lot of us do. And it is just thinking, wait, who? And the one thing that actually, like, someone told me that really hit home is like, who do you have more respect for, yourself or this person you're trying to please? Like, surely your self-respect comes above everything else. So by saying no to them, you're respecting yourself more than you're respecting their needs. And that was like that. So whenever I find myself in a position where I'm like, I really don't want to do this, but I know that it'll make them happy, I'm like, no, like who do I need to make happy first? Exactly. I
love that.
So Christina, what is your first personal reflection for 2022?
So for me, my first reflection of 2022 is that the small things in life are really the ones that are going to amount to the big things in the long run. So for me, becoming that has really forced me to sort of take a look at how I can be more present in all situations, especially ones with my family. And I think a big reason for us moving to Bali this year was that I was really finding it difficult to prioritize being with my children above work. And I think this sounds awful, but I think a lot of working mothers will understand this. A big part of my identity is my work, is my entrepreneurial nature, is my like productivity. And when you have young children, the time you spend with them is obviously so precious, but it can feel really unproductive, and it really works against my natural nature. But actually, I think more so being in the UK for me was such a hustle culture. Like, I found it really toxic from the way I was set up in the place I am in my life at the moment. I felt like I had to be on all the time. I had to be being productive all the time. I had to be doing something. So even if I was resting or chilling with my kids, I thought, well, I need to have like a course on in the background, so I'm learning, or I need to be making sure I'm writing a post, or like all of these things which are just so unnecessary. And like, I think I read a quote the other day, and it's like, you'll always remember like the Christmas play that you missed, but you'll never remember the meeting that you missed it for. And I just think that hit home so much for me, because I was like, now we're in Bali, it's just like all day I can spend with my family because my work is in the evening. And actually just changing that, and I realize this is not possible for everyone, but for me, I'm now so much more able to be present in the moments that I spend with my family. And it's just been an absolute game changer for my anxiety, for my mum guilt, for my way I live. Like, I'm so much more in the moment at all times because I've just taken the pressure off, like being productive in every moment, and that work is not the most important thing. It's still very much up there, but actually I've been able to deprioritize and like give enough attention to everything. And like in the long run, the memories I'm going to remember are those that I've spent, you know, a Friday morning in the pool with the kids, just laughing around or running along the beach, not the fact I did 60 meetings in 1 week, you know. And it's just like all of these little tiny memories that are going to add up to just my children having the most fulfilled life, and also me and Pete having the most like beautiful balance in life as well.
Yeah, it's like you've kind of, your reflection is just your priorities. You've like mixed around your priorities. Before, I totally agree with what you said about the UK has got a really toxic hustle culture. And I think, to be fair, I think you like the West in general does, and you do feel like you can't switch off, and almost like you feel guilty for then like playing with your kids, but then you also feel guilty for like going to work, and it's really just a cycle of guilt. That's amazing though. And like obviously, yeah, like you said, like not everyone can do that. I can't move to Bali or whatever, but what Bali, I think, what even if you came back to the UK like at the end of the year, I think you'll definitely have that instilled in you now. And maybe
yeah,
that
my mindset has changed so much.
But yeah, no, that is yeah, that's such a great reflection. And maybe it's something like, if you can't get yourselves out to a different country or whatever and move to a different country, it's maybe like taking that holiday and seeing how other cultures are, and then just bringing that back to the UK and seeing like just not being worried about what other people are going to think.
And I think it's literally about just like living life. Like it doesn't have to be an expensive holiday or a massive transatlantic move or whatever. It's just like in the moment, just be present in every moment. Like go and see the kids play, like go and see Santa Claus, like just make a whole thing of putting the Christmas tree up, like all of these little precious things in life, which a lot of us are like, oh my God, it's so stressful, I need to do this, I need to do this. Like make every moment special and precious and exciting, and like, you know, make a Saturday afternoon, do something silly like going for a picnic, or like, it sounds so silly, but just like put more enjoyment into life, and like don't take things so seriously. I think that's probably the reflection. Like those little silly moments will add up to some really big, amazing memories for you in the long run.
Love that. Yeah, it's never as deep as you think it is, always, isn't it?
Exactly. So Ellie, what is your next one?
So my next personal reflection is, so again, this is something obviously I've discovered this year, but this year for me has been like quite a bit of a whirlwind. Like I started the year living in my own flat in London, and now I live with my mum in Northampton, away from all my friends, away from London. I don't barely go into London that often, just because it's obviously a lot of effort to get there now, and like when you come out of London, you spend time out of London, go back in, it's really exhausting. Like you lower yourself to a different pace of life. So when you go back in, you're like, oh my God, like everything is crazy here. There's so many people. So yeah, I've been bad at going back into London. But what this has made me realize actually is how much like your environment affects your productivity, your motivation, your like even where you get inspiration from. So I feel like as much as I have loved living here in the countryside, having a bit more downtime, and I have really enjoyed it, like I do recognize the effect that just surrounding myself with like-minded people, meeting new people. You know, in London I was out every single evening, like with friends at events. Like I had a jam-packed life, but that like showed me, you know, I didn't compare myself to anyone, but I listened to people's journeys and I got inspired by it. And I brought that home and put that inspiration and motivation into my work. Was living in one of the most, you know, high fashion leading cities in the world, so I was constantly inspired by outfits and like pushing myself to think outside the box and stuff. So a reflection for 2022 for me is definitely like how much your environment can affect you. And this is even, Christina and I were talking about this earlier, like it even goes down to like the gym I'm going to. in London, I went to one of like the best gyms, and people took sport really seriously. I didn't take sport that seriously, but being around those people, I did take it more seriously, and I learned more. I like got friends at the gym who knew loads about nutrition, knew loads about exercises and how to do the right exercises. And when you pick that up, you do level up, and without even knowing, subconsciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, you are just like, you have that knowledge now to level up. And it's easy here, like not really surrounded by, that many like-minded people. It's harder to learn new things and push myself up. So a reflection, but also maybe a goal for me is like get myself back into an environment where I'm constantly inspired. I'm constantly in awe of people I'm surrounding with. It's that quote, isn't it? It's like, if you surround yourself with 6 millionaires, you'll be the 7th. Like I want to be that. I want to be surrounded by people like I can get knowledge from and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my personal reflection for 2022.
And I think that links really nicely actually to my last personal reflection, which is get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that really links to all areas of life, but where Ellie was talking about is sort of like, it is fucking scary putting yourself in a room full of people who are better than you, but it's much better for your own growth to surround yourself with that than people who are like doing worse than you, or like you're one of the best ones in the room. Although it can feel like a great ego boost, you're not going to push yourself to be better if like there's no competition around you, because naturally we do thrive on being the best. So I think I've learned that. It's like Ellie said with the gym, I'm like, this time last year I could not step foot in a gym on my own. Like even with Ellie, I would be so self-conscious because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't like have a clue like how heavy I should lift, or if I was going to look stupid trying out a machine I didn't know how to use. Like it was fucking terrifying. And then I got myself a PT who took around the gym, and I think I did it for a good like 6 months, where it obviously he's way better than me in the gym, but just naturally being in the gym surrounded by others who are better than me because they've been going forced me to level up. And now like I'm actually fine, and I can go to the gym on my own, thank God. It sounds so silly, but for me that was such a big thing. And I think like Ellie said, with co-working, again, I was fucking terrified to go to these co-working spaces on my own in Bali, because one, it's not even like everyone speaks English, like barely anyone speaks English over here. There's not a lot of English people. So turning up to a co-working space and they're all packed, like you don't really know the people are doing. But I've just found that even just being in that environment made me want to do a fucking good job at work, because I was like, felt the energy and felt the like, these people, again, a bit like me, have moved their lives. They're like location independent entrepreneurs who are growing these fucking incredible businesses. And just by having 1 or 2 conversations with them at a time, I'm like so inspired and I can't wait to come back. And I think if I had chosen to just stay at home and do the meetings I had and, do whatever I needed to do, but just get it done, then I wouldn't feel so inspired. And I'd just be kind of staying at the level I'm at now rather than constantly looking to thrive up and up. So I think very similar vein to Ellie's, but where the real growth comes from is putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations, like learning more, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, putting yourself around people who are better than you, getting involved in conversations that you're probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it's knowledge that you need to know. Yeah. And like those situations are gonna really help you level up in the long run.
So true. Like I love that one as well. That's definitely going to be a goal of mine going into 2022. Christina has definitely aced that one this year, and it's so clear to see like how much she's leveled up. But yeah, I love that. Push it, like just get yourself out of your comfort zone, because obviously we all, because then that'll become your new comfort zone. Like your comfort zone is malleable. We've said this before, like your comfort zone now is not going to be your comfort zone forever. 3 levels up from your comfort zone now will at one point, if you keep pushing yourself, be your new comfort zone. And that's how people like move up the ladder, don't they? Every time you like get a promotion, that's you going out of your comfort zone, learning a new job. But then like after a year or so, you're like, okay, I'm ready for my next promotion now, isn't it? So it could apply to everything.
Yeah, and I think it's like everything seems so difficult when you first start doing it, but like just with consistent practice, it will become so easy. Like in the course of a year, like the gym now is just part of my routine, whereas this time last year I couldn't even fucking step foot in it. So it's just like all of those things just, you know, it just becomes so natural with consistent practice in a daily routine. Putting it as a habit that it's just like non-negotiable is the way you're just going to make that comfort zone expand, basically, and make things feel less uncomfortable.
Yeah, you've almost got to just like close your eyes, hold your breath, and dive in without even thinking about it, haven't you? Just hope for the best. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. But then you're not going to be scared for next time because you're like, well, can't be worse than that.
Yeah, like honestly, like I remember the first time I was going to check out a co-working space in Bali, it took me every ounce of willpower I had to get myself out the fucking house. And I was too scared to get on a bike taxi, which is the way you just get around Bali, like a go ride, they're called. So you just hop on the back of a motorbike. I was too scared to do that. So I got a car, and in Bali, you can't get anywhere by car, especially in the afternoon if it's raining. So I sat in traffic for a good 2 hours trying to get to this fucking co-working space. To now, I'm literally like, right, get my Gojek, hop on the back, pop into my co-working space where everyone's like, hi, Christina, how are you? Say hi to my little mate. And it's just so funny to think, even like 2 months ago, I'm like, I couldn't even get on the back of a bike. Like,
it's crazy now. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, now
so it is. It's just taking that first step, which feels so terrifying, but you know it's going to do you good. Like, just do it. Just do it. This is your sign right now. Just take that fucking first step, and everything else will feel so easy after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that one. Definitely, as I said, making that a goal for my 2023. So there are 2 personal reflections each. So now what we thought was really good is to like do 2 business goals, 2 business reflections each. So the difference between personal and business is obviously like, this is going to be what you've discovered during your time working on your business or in your job or whatever you do, separate to kind of your like personal, what you're going to take through to 2023 personal, in your personal life, your, you know, what you want to continue working on. So just to give you an example, my first one is I realized like with my business, like it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and I have to continually tell myself this, and this is again something I am going to continue telling myself in 2023. But because it's taken me so long to launch my business, I think like as soon as I launched it, I was like, right, where it needs to be 100 miles an hour, I need to be like one of the top brands. So many people are watching me now because it's taken me so long to get to this point. And that's something again that I've realized is like, this is my own path. It doesn't compare to anyone's path. We're in such a different time than we were last year, and last year was such a different time to the year before. Like no one can compare to anyone else. And that's what I definitely caught myself doing a lot of times, like looking at other businesses. Well, they're doing way better than me. Like, what does this mean? Does this mean my business over? I mean, I've been launched like a month, like, and you know, these things go through my head all the time. And it's just like it's just that constant pressure that I put on myself, and it makes the whole journey like less fun and less enjoyable. So I'm really working on that, and that is definitely something I've reflected that I've done this year and I'm trying to get better at. It's just like enjoying the journey, realizing it is a journey. It's not like a sprint to the finish line. Everyone always says the best part of like building anything up is the journey, it's not the destination. So yeah, I'm just going to go into 2023 really just enjoying every moment, focusing on my own path, doing stuff that I like to do and I'm seeing results doing. And it could be completely different to this other brand that's, you know, that's doing really well, but this is what works for me. I've got tunnel vision, I've got my blinkers on, like no one else matters. This is about me and myself and my brand. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it is that like celebrate everything, like celebrate all the small wins you get, like every sale, every, you know, website views, like looking at all the results and just celebrating everything, you know, and just really, like you say, enjoying the journey, because actually whatever the destination is that you have in your head, like doesn't exist. And it's sort of like, you're never going to reach a point where you're like, okay, I'm doing best. Like there's always going to be someone doing better than you. There's always going to be another plateau like you want to hit. which is also really enjoyable. But actually, if you forget to enjoy the part you're on now, you'll look back and be like, oh, it just won't feel as good. You won't feel like you know as much about the journey, or that you haven't taken as much in as wanted. So yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a good one. But yeah, go, Christina. What's yours?
So I think my one kind of connects to that again. So my first one is about mental health and business. And I think this does kind of sit nicely with Ellie's, because we live in this world where we just think we need to compare ourselves with everyone, and like that we need to, in order to be successful, we need to be doing the most things, making the most money, working with the most clients, like shouting about how fucking successful we are all the time, when actually from a mental health perspective that can be really like debilitating, because you can feel like you have to continue to push yourself even if you don't feel able to. So for me, this manifested itself in like working with clients who I just knew were not good for me. Like I wasn't able to sleep, I wasn't able to eat properly, I wasn't able to focus on my other clients because I was so stressed about this client. And it was nothing I was doing wrong. It was just the case that this client was a particularly difficult personality, and for whatever reason we clashed, and I beat myself up about it for so long, and eventually the relationship did end, and I kind of wish I'd ended it way sooner. And because like the money I earned from keeping that client on didn't change the fact that I was stressed, burnt out, like all of that stuff. And I think similar to Ellie, like she's beating herself up or continuously in her head thinking like, I need to be doing more, I need to be doing more, I need to be doing more. And actually the toll of your mental health is going to make that just so unenjoyable. So I think it's really taking a minute to think about like prioritizing your mental health above anything else when you're running a business, and never forgetting like self-care and rest is also as important as being productive and like, being successful in business. Obviously we all want to be successful, and that's fine, but it should never be to the detriment of your mental health.
No, and it's like almost thinking, okay, I'm earning £70,000, so I'm really happy, and then earning, a few years down the road, you're earning £140,000, but you're miserable. And you've got to think about whether that, are you doubly as happy earning doubly as more money? Yeah. And were you actually very content earning £70,000? You're obviously getting by, very fine, very comfortable. You've got time to see your kids. You're not stressed. Like, is it worth it? Obviously, like, that's always like a hard thing to think about.
Yeah, I guess it comes back to like balance, which obviously everyone talks about so much, but it really is the case of like just prioritizing life as much as work, which I think we're just so guilty of, especially as entrepreneurs. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I fully push that you need to work your fucking ass off in business and put everything into it. But don't forget that you're allowed breaks. Like you're allowed to switch off in the evenings. You're allowed to switch off at the weekends. You're allowed to take a Tuesday off to be with your children, or be with your partner, or have a play date with your partner, whatever it is, like that's fine too. Allow yourself to live life while you're building your empire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there's no rush. We're not in a race to the finish line here.
Yeah, exactly. As we keep saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And just, working out what your priorities are for life. Like, it's not a priority for business. It's not a priority for your career. It's like life is one big thing filled with lots of different things that make you happy. So making sure you've got that balance right, like Christina said. So yes, my last business reflection is what I've realized this year is like not I was watching Emily in Paris, obviously, the other day, and there was a really good quote. It's not a quote. It just hit home with me, and it was like someone said to Emily, like, it's business, it's not personal. And that's something that, again, I really need to get on board with, and that's where I need to like set boundaries between business and my personal life. It's like I sometimes catch myself trying to make friends with everyone I'm doing business with, trying to build up a great relationship, have that trust there, show them I trust them, when actually like I'm just being detrimental to myself, and getting into situations where I'm like, oh, but I thought this, and they were like, no, this is this, and I'm like, oh, and I get burnt. If you've listened to our previous podcast this year, like I had a situation with like an unexpected invoice, and that was kind of working with a friend. And yeah, I think there is a definite separation that I need to get in my mind between business and personal. But again, I'm so new to this journey. Like, I'm not beating myself up for it, but it's a reflection that I've like taken from 2022. And again, I want to continue working on in 2023. I've just said like, basically just setting my boundaries, setting the line between friends and business, like just not feeling like I'm going to be mean to someone just by being professional. Again, it comes from people pleasing. So that's something I am working on and I'm going to continue to work on, is just being like more professional, more mature, more like, okay, yeah, we are friends, but I'm still going to give you this contract because it will protect the both of us.
Yeah. Exactly. That's really good.
Yeah. So they're all my reflections for 2022. So Christina, what is your final one?
So my final one is something that I've been working on a lot with my clients recently. So this is like a marketing tip, basically, or reflection that I think will serve startups well, especially if you're just kind of getting your business off the ground. But and we've talked a lot about this in the toolkit. So there is a workbook there that you can access if you want to help get clear on this. But it's about really getting clear on what you are actually selling and making that as much of a niche as possible. Now, I think people think a niche is like, oh, I do a marketing or whatever. But I think more so than ever, there is so much noise out there. There's so much content to consume. There's so much, like, so many social media channels to be checking, so many people selling so many things. And I think more so than ever, people want one source that they can go to for one type of knowledge. So for me, like, I have one source of, I've got one membership for like my entrepreneur knowledge, one magazine publication for my marketing knowledge, one news site I read, like, and that is what I go to them for. And it's because they are really good at one specific thing, and it's what I want to consume. Now, everyone gets worried about doing this because they think, well, if I'm not talking to everyone, then my audience is going to be really small. But actually, the reflection from this year was where I've told my clients to really dig deep into what is the one thing they want to be expert on. Their audiences have like tripled in size. And it's the same for me. Like, for my business, I was sort of trying to use all my marketing skills to serve all my clients. And actually, what I've decided now is just to be a really fucking good PR freelance director. And all of the other business can go to my other freelance team. And actually, by doing that, I've tripled my business in size over this year because I've got really good at just doing one thing and really well known about doing that one thing. And I think for all businesses, this is where we need to be. And once you're really established, of course, you can expand out and do other things, but you've grown your audience then, and you've got a captivated audience. And that's what you need to be doing in your first couple of years of business, is just growing an audience who fucking love you and are like true advocates of your business and keep coming back time and time again and tell other people about you. And that's how it's all going to work. So that would be my biggest like reflection of 2022, is like, get really, really clear on what your niche is and stick to it for a good 2 years, at least, I would say.
Yeah, and that applies for not only a service business, but I think that applies for like a product business as well. Is like, just try not to serve everybody in the product you're selling. Like, get really clear on who you're selling to, and work on it for 2 years, for 3 years, until you even learn who your audience is, because then they're so much easier to target as well. But no, that was all our reflections then for 2022. So we hope that this has helped you think about maybe what you have taken from 2022 and the things that you want to continue working on into 2023. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you and hear about the 2022 reflections that you've come up with and all the goals that you're going to take into 2023 as well.
Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you in our next episode.